Hello family, welcome to our daily series of self-esteem and other stories. Today, we will discuss about the condition known as macrocephaly. This is a term for an unusually large head. An infant with macrocephaly will have a larger head than most other infants of the same age and sex. Many cases, this condition is benign or harmless. In other cases, it may indicate an underlying medical condition, such as a genetic syndrome or a brain tumor. Today we have a privilege to interview Connor. She is an undergraduate in recreation therapy. She has passion in helping people in need, mostly children with disability. Kindly subscribe for more stories. Welcome Lizzie, I have been waiting for you. How are you doing today? I am doing great Kona, thank you so much for your warm welcome. Pleasure is mine. Welcome again and thank you for the good job you are doing out here. Spreading awareness and teaching people accept who they are is the best way to boost self-esteem. You are right, Connor. Our audience today wants to hear from you about the story of the young child you adopted. How did you go about it? What happened to her when she was born? Yes, sure. After I graduated, I landed a dream job interning for the Shiners Hospital in Pamba, where I worked with children with disabilities. I wanted to stay there, but living in Pamba was very expensive. I thought I will go and do masters and come back later. In the process of doing masters, I stumbled upon a church. When I walked inside, the speaker of the day turned out to be owning a nonprofit which partnered with an organization called Palmetto Children. What was the mission of this organization? The organization's mission was to rescue, love and care for orphans and impoverished children. That was my light moment. I needed to look into doing some missionary work. I scheduled my first visit to Palmetto. The conditions I walked into were pathetic, and the experience changed my entire life. What was your encounter? It was like the set of a movie. We were walking in the village when we found a boy, about 3 years, with cerebral palsy, naked and eating mud. The missionary knew of the family. They said the mom was hiring a babysitter while she was at work. In most parts of Palmetto, children with disabilities are often seen as worthless, not valued at all. When I saw that baby boy eating mud, I said we had to do something. We had to give him a bath, but also looking back, that wouldn't solve his problems, but at least it was something immediate. We took the boy, treated him and brought him back. Imagine nobody even noticed. I later on learned that the little boy had big brothers, aged 11 years and 6 years, who were the main caregivers. My heart was torn out of my chest. Did you manage to finish your master's degree? Or you devoted to helping those children with disabilities? I managed to finish my master's and immediately signed a 2-year commitment to help and recreation program at an orphanage which consisted of homes, a school, a church and a medical facility. I spent my time advocating for kids' needs, focusing on families and trying to prevent the neglect and abandonment that ran rampant. I even noticed that lack of prenatal care in those areas was the leading cause of these atrocious conditions. In Palmetto, the majority of women only knew they were pregnant because they were getting a belly. They would give birth at home with a midwife. How did you meet your daughter? Well, it was the beginning of the year, when a young woman came into the orphanage with a baby girl, Zuri, claiming to be her aunt. She said it was her sister's baby, and that the baby's mother had died a month prior. The story seemed cooked, but Zuri really needed help. The 3-month-old baby had severely enlarged head. I knew it was hydrocephalus, a condition in which there is excessive fluid on their brain. It was something I had seen a lot. I immediately tried to get Zuri on the list for treatment. I prepared her for surgery. She would have a shunt inserted to remove some of the fluid causing the swelling. When it came time for operation, I trusted the aunt was to be there to stay with the baby at the hospital. Imagine the woman had abandoned the baby. We started searching her with my colleagues. Through that process of searching, we found out that she was in fact the mother. Did you find the mother? Family preservation is very important to me. We kind of knew that she was trying to find a home for the baby, so I didn't want to give up. I wanted to tell her that being overwhelmed is not a reason to put your baby in an orphanage. But we later found out that Zuri's mother was a prostitute who dropped out of school while pregnant. I never judged her for it or treated her any differently. I knew that she deserved love. Eventually, the mother came back to retrieve her baby from the hospital. She told me if I didn't give her money, she wasn't going to take the baby back with her. We stood strong and never gave her anything. She took her baby, but after 1 month she came back again to the orphanage looking for money to attend to a doctor's appointment. I told her to go and bring her to their orphanage. Since we were here to help and support and not to give money just like that. Zuri's mother was ashamed of her in that she would wrap her up like she was dead. You couldn't even tell she was holding a baby. She didn't want people to know. Did she bring her back, or she only needed money and that is all? Yes, she finally brought her back into the orphanage and things were bad. The baby was having seizures, she lost weight, her incision was infected. All of it could have been prevented, since there was a doctor at the orphanage whose services were free. Thankfully, Zuri was treated. We gave her mother one last chance. I enrolled her mother in a free baby rescue program, where she was expected to bring her once a week for weight checks and therapeutic formula. Initially, she was committed, but quickly she started skipping appointments. She was supposed to be taken off the program, but for some reason, I just could not let go of Zuri. Her mother seemed so detached. Her actions told us all we needed to know. At this point, Zuri was 10 months old. I told her mom, if she can take good care of Zuri, I will hire a caretaker for her so that she can even go back to school. To place value on her life, and maybe she could encourage other people. She told me she will come back the following day so that we discuss about that. Surprisingly, she never showed up. Months later she returned with Zuri to the orphanage, who was on death's doorstep. She was tiny. I said I have to move now. Me and my 2 colleagues went to Zuri's house. We found the baby completely alone, and on the floor lying on a sack. When Zuri's mother returned, I was so enraged, I could hardly speak. I told Zuri I loved her and I will be back. I took the report to the missionary management and I was given a green light to bring Zuri to safety. It was not simple since there were steps to take a kid from a mom. When I returned to that house to take Zuri, she was alone again. Her mom came running in. When I told her I will love to take Zuri to the orphanage to take care of her, she was very excited. She said yes. The struggle to save the baby was far from over. Was she getting better, or she was in a critical condition? It was victory in the fact that we were able to take her out of that situation and restore some dignity to her. The problem was, her organs were failing, and we were fighting for her life. I did not manage to change her diaper for several days because she was malnourished. We consulted several doctors. Others could say we were going to lose her. We prayed for miracles. We spoke life over her. In midst of everything, Zuri was diagnosed with another lethal condition. Hydranencephaly. Much of her brain was missing, and in its place was spinal fluid, which was most likely due to stroke which she suffered. She desperately needed another drainage for the fluid in her brain. But the hospital refused to put her on the list due to her poor prognosis. They essentially laughed me out when I asked for a feeding tube. I discovered the sad reality that lack of resources forces doctors to decide whose lives are worth fighting for. Luckily, a doctor came from another hospital and inserted a feeding tube for Zuri. That was the little chance that she might survive. We kept fighting through to the next step. We knew the prognosis, but we kept fighting. Months went by, and she kept going. We were given that any day she will pass on, but we kept going. Months after the doctors have predicted she would die, I became Zuri's legal guardian. Still, the baby's head was getting larger and larger. She desperately needed another operation. I still requested the same doctor who helped her with a feeding pipe, to help us again. The doctor referred us to a children's hospital in that town who was willing to perform the surgery. We boarded a plane and headed to that hospital, and Zuri underwent the surgery. You were very lucky. Did you see changes with her head? After a month in the hospital, all services were performed. We saw her head size decrease almost 2 inches. She lost some pounds in fluid and 2 inches in height from her head. I felt like even her quality of life changed. After we were discharged, I wanted to set up an environment that was best for her to succeed. I decided to put up a chemist to sell medicines when I am free or assign duties, but to remain dedicated to Zuri's life. Even though there is no treatment to bring back the missing pieces of her brain, she has really tried to overcome so much, and I will never stop fighting because I believe in her. I believe in her potential. You have done a great job. I pray that God keeps you and blesses you so that you continue taking good care of your daughter Zuri.